We will ask to Tan Sri and Datuk to allocate 2 hours from their busy schedule to meet and have a session with us, even though via video meeting. Since this is going to be a new normal for us, but we still look forward for physical meeting once the MCO end. Let me introduce a bit about Tan Sri. Tan Sri Abdul Wahid Omar is currently the chairman of Bursa Malaysia since 1st May 2020. He also the chairman of the board of directors of UKM, one of the top Malaysia university since 1st November 2018. He was the former group chairman of PNB, a Malaysia government-linked investment company, and one of the country's largest fund management companies from August 2016 to June 2018. Previously, he was appointed as a senator and minister in the Prime Minister Department in charge of economic planning, serving from June 2013 to June 2016. He is also known as the former president and CEO of Maybank from 2008 to 2013, Malaysia's largest public listed company and one of the leading financial services group in South Asia. His major contribution to the corporate world is overseeing the turnaround of UEM Group, Telecom Malaysia and Maybank. Let me introduce a bit about Datuk. Datuk Muhammad Omar Swift is currently the CEO of Bursa Malaysia, Berhad. He is also the director of all subsidiaries companies within Bursa Malaysia Group and served as the chairman of Bursa Malaysia Derivatives and Clearing. Previously, Datuk Umar was the CEO Group MD of MAA Group Berhad from 2006 to 2019. If you buy the MAA insurance, definitely you can see his photo. In 2008, he was also appointed as CEO of Malaysian Assurance Alliance Berhad, now known as Zurich International Malaysia Berhad. In 2004, he joined financial services. Datuk Umar graduated with Bachelor of Economic degree from Monash University, Clayton, Australia in 1985, or still young actually, and is an associate of Chartered Accountant Australia and New Zealand, a member of CPA Australia. Alright, Tan Sri and Datuk, let me introduce each of the participants in these sessions, not following by order. First, we have Mr. Amir, co-founder of Run Cloud, a modern cloud server management panel powering over 315,000 applications, domains global across 100 plus countries since 2017. Now they plan to expand in enterprise by partnering with major hosting companies in 2021 onwards. For those who's just joined us, please mute. Okay. Number two, we have Reza Razali, is a tech industry veteran, currently running Slurp Post, a system currently deployed in over 3,000 customers across the region. He also actively invests in other Malaysian tech startups, among them Amans.my and InstaWeb. Number three, we have Mr. Faiz Fadlillah, founded TripFest and Salam Standard, an innovative state-of-the-art travel portal dedicated to the rise of global Muslim travelers, which was sold for undisclosed amount, creating the largest Muslim-focused online travel agency in the world. Currently CEO and board members and as well as mentor. He specializes in corporate strategy, investment, and digital transformation. Number four, we have Mr. Nazrul Hakim, just going to be turned 20 this year. Is the CEO and founder of Bill Please. Founded Bill Please in 2012. Bill Please is a payment platform for organizations to pay and get paid the fastest at the lowest cost possible. It's processed over RM 3 billion GMV in 2020. Experienced executive with an excellent work history in the financial service industry, skill in negotiation, business planning, sales and operation, entrepreneurship and management. Number five, we have Mr. Nasir Habiza, the parking guy. He is the founder and CEO of Jom Parking and operating since 2017. GoVisal or Jom Parking provides end-to-end digital parking solution that aim to change the parking landscape in Malaysia by providing user, parking operators, local council and enforcers with the latest technology in the industries. Number six, we have Mr. Sheikh Izzaidin, founder and CEO of Agent to You. Agent to You helps product founders to digitally manage their sales agent and stockists and to increase their business performance by using data analytics. Number 7, we have Mr. Nick Muhammad Amin, founder and CEO of MoveBee. MoveBee is a P2P car rental platform since 2018, based in Bangsa, has also expanding in Indonesia and collaborating with Traveloka and Klook. Number 8, we have Mr. Arif Imran, serial entrepreneur and founder of Surf. Surf introduced a vehicle super app and end-to-end digital vehicle ownership experience concept. Number 9, we have Mr. Aizat Rahim, co-founded Droppy, a B2B e-commerce solution provider that enables business to buy and sell in bulk confidently. Droppy Direct and Droppy Marketplace platform brings wholesale businesses online and allow retailers to source for the right product from the right suppliers. He also co-founded and currently the managing partner for Finex Capital, an advisor and investment firm that focus on retail, B2B commerce and supply chains. Number 10, we have roses among the thorn. Puan Mazlita Mat Hassan, the only woman's representative, CEO and co-founder of Reka. Reka is a knowledge sharing and mentoring platform. With Reka, organization can build, structure and deploy their own internal wiki and mentoring platform within days. Reka is also being used by the Ministry of Education, where more than 14,000 teachers are sharing their teaching resources with the other teachers. They are now working with UNICEF Malaysia to connect teachers and students from marginalized communities and such as the stateless and the undocumented. So number 11, we have Mr. Nur Muhammad Hilmi. He's the CEO and founder of IX Telecom. Seems like he lost weight a lot during this MCO. Established in 2008, IX Telecom is global connectivity, SDW and managed service provider for global business with coverage in more than 200 countries and territories. Mr. Izwan Yaakob, number 12, a runner, a serial entrepreneur, CEO and co-founder at MedCard Sdn Bhd. MedCard is an automated medical benefit management system for B2B segment, which was founded in 2016. Currently, MedCard have more than 30,000 users and it's cover more than 2,000 panels clinic nationwide. Number 13, we have Mr. Amir Haris Ahmad, founder and CEO of SecurePair. SecurePair is actually a payment platform that focuses on security and simplicity, on board more than 500 merchants since launching in October 2020. So number 14, actually this can be a new member of the captains. His name is Mr. Izzat Ishaq, MD and founder of Tracker Hero. Tracker Hero helps simplify modal workforce management with total solution together with the device, connectivity system and 24 hours command center. At this moment, Tracker Hero have 3,100 active users all around Malaysia with revenue projected at RM2 million by end of 2020. Number 15, this is our special appearance. We have Mr. Ahmad Izmir, Director of Crewstone International Private Equity and Investment, one of the 6 VC companies that manage Penjana Fund. Previously built and exited a digital media company called Maxman TV. If you watch all the YouTube prank, most probably come from the Maxman. That was acquired by a public listed company in 2019. With private share in companies have a total accumulated revenue of RM 18 million in 2019. Currently serve as a director and board member of a number of technology and media investment companies. And any of you looking for investment network, you know who to contact. To all the participants, if you have any questions during Tan Sri and Datuk session, please raise your hand. So let's start with Datuk. Let's start with Tan Sri. Tan Sri, the session is yours.
Thank you, Rizal. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And a very good morning, Datuk Umar, Rizal, and everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning. Now, having listened to Rizal's introduction of all of you, I feel like a dinosaur already. At the age of 56, I feel very old. But having said that, it's good to be among the young people and see the many aspects of your enterprising ventures. I had the benefit of May I request you to mute, please, unless you're speaking, because otherwise we can hear you munching whatever snacks in front of you. Sorry about that. I was saying that I had the benefit of Googling some of you in the internet and looked at some of you have been listed as the top 30 under 30 by Forbes and so on. So I think it's very inspiring to see so many young people and Buputra at that flourishing from an early age and so on. So I do look forward to seeing many more people like you, and hopefully some of you will grow to become unicorns of the future, inshallah. Now, what I would like to do this morning is to perhaps share with you my perspectives. Perhaps it's a bit more relevant to corporate as opposed to tech startup and so on. So maybe I'm not as enterprising as you are, but we'll see how it goes in terms of maybe there are some common learnings, and I'll be happy after that to hand over to Datuk Umar to share with you about the LEAP fundraising opportunities or platforms that we have. And after that, we'll get into the Q&A. So if you can just recall the slides that we have here. Inshallah. Yeah. Okay. Well, if I may share with you my life journey and the lessons learned, if you like, within the next 15 minutes or so. Now, I must say that I've been privileged. I came from a poor family, but alhamdulillah, given a good education at Madrasah Seremban, then sponsored by Mara to pursue accountancy in the UK, and came back as a chartered accountant and wanting to be a chief financial officer of a major public listed company. And alhamdulillah, I was given the opportunity to be the CFO for Telkom Malaysia back in March 2001. And I never dreamt of being a CEO, but somehow, alhamdulillah, was discovered and given the opportunity to run not just Group, but later Telkom Malaysia, Maybank, before being roped in into the government to do national service for one term of 3 years, and then going back to the corporate sector at PMB, and now privileged to be chairing Bursa Malaysia, as well as a few other organizations, including UKM. Now, over the past 33 years of my career, I had the privilege to have gone through many crises and challenges. Nothing less than the Asian financial crisis back in 1997. Some of you were very small then, when I was at Amanah Capital Group. Then had a major corporate turnaround challenge at the Group back in 2001, 2004, followed by the performance improvement challenge at Telkom Malaysia, where at that point in time, there was migration from fixed telecommunications to mobile communications, and from voice to data and so on, and how we had to compete with the other telcos under Celcom at that point in time, competing with Maxis and Digi. And then came the global financial crisis when I was at Maybank, as well as having to drive Maybank towards transformation to be a regional banking group, and to grow the Islamic finance business. And then whilst I was in government back in August 2015, we also had to navigate through a major financial markets turbulence. And at that point in time, the government set up the Special Economics Committee, which I had to chair. So these were the 5 crises and challenges that I had to go through. But having said that, nothing has prepared me and I guess the country and the world for this COVID-19 that we are going through. It's totally unprecedented and it's piercing through countries, economies, corporations, societies, and even our families and individuals alike in terms of the threat on lives. We have seen how damaging it is in terms of the impact globally on economy. The first half of this year, our global GDP contracted by 6.1%, and alhamdulillah, it improved in the third quarter. But as we get into the fourth quarter, with the lockdowns, not just here in Malaysia, but also in Europe, US, and many parts of the world, we'll see the fourth quarter being tougher. And the full year, I think the contraction will be more than 5% for sure. And for the Malaysian economy, is equally damaging. We saw the huge 17.1% contraction in the GDP. And although things improved into by a small contraction of 2.7%, but we can expect things to get worse in the fourth quarter. So our expected full year contraction will be around 5.4%, meaning that it's actually at the upper end of the range of 3.5% to 5.5%, the official estimate of Bank Negara, I'm afraid. Well, the threat to lives, you know that more than 1.3 million people have died, and from 55 million cases. In Malaysia, not so bad. So we have just above 300 deaths out of 50,000 cases. So what is good about the latest situation is that although the number of cases has increased, but the mortality rate has come down significantly. So in the case of globally, it's about 2.5% or so, but in case of Malaysia, it's only about 0.6% of the people who contracted eventually died from the disease. So I guess that being the situation, it is my hope that the government will be able to come up with a more optimal approach to dealing with this crisis, because I'm afraid that the national lockdown approach will hurt the economy and the livelihood of the people. So it is our hope that government will go back to the more targeted approach. Yes, you can lock down the real red zones, but the rest should be allowed to continue to open, because otherwise, if businesses close by the end of this year and well into the first quarter of the, next year, I'm afraid a lot of people will not be able to hold on to their staff. There will be bigger or higher layoffs, and that will have more damaging and lasting impact to the economy. So that's actually the hope. Now, obviously, when you have something like this, it does warrant unprecedented responses from the government, and not just Malaysia, but around the world. So in the case of Malaysia, you've seen the multiple stimulus packages being introduced. And I think the government is spending as much as possible, resulting in a higher deficit for 2020 of about 6% of GDP. And of course, leveraging not just on government budget, but also on the other non-fiscal measures, the loan repayment moratorium, the guarantee schemes, various concessions offered, as well as the concessions by GLCs. So I think the key objective here is to keep people employed and to keep viable businesses afloat. And for 2021, 2 Fridays ago, you have seen the budget presented by Tengku Datuk Sri Zafrul, who unveiled one of the biggest budgets, or the biggest budget ever, at 322.5 billion ringgit, and meant to address the riots' well-being, business continuity, as well as economic resilience. So I think that's just the broad picture, if I may. Now, obviously, it is still early days when it comes to dealing with the current crisis, but if I can share with you my perspectives, whenever there's a crisis, there will be opportunities. Now, in the case of Bursa Malaysia, as we speak, we've been a beneficiary of the lockdowns, of the low interest rate environment, and the advent of technology. In the sense that for many, many years, we've been trying to get more retail investors onto the market to start to trade and invest in the stock market. And we've been wanting to get more people to come online. And Alhamdulillah, in the sense that with this pandemic, suddenly we have seen our market volume double. We used to have an average daily trading value of 2 billion ringgit per day in 2019, last year. But for the first 9 months this year, the volume actually doubled to 4 billion ringgit. And Alhamdulillah, in the fourth quarter, the first 90 days anyway, that momentum continued. And we hope that will continue until the end of the year at the very least. And in terms of retail participation, it is up to 35%. And in terms of online broking, the number of, or rather the proportion of trades being done online is now 45% of the total trade. So it's actually highly encouraging. So the point here is actually for many people in the real economy, physical stuff is tough. They are severely affected, especially the travel and tourism industry, the aviation industry, and so on. But in some cases, those who use a lot of technology will be benefiting from that. And again, I just wanted to reinforce the point that I think crisis, when handled correctly, can be turned into opportunity. And indeed, in the case of Maybank, Maybank had 3 major challenges when I joined back in 2008. The first was Maybank had entered into 3 major acquisitions costing 11 billion ringgit in banks in Indonesia, Vietnam, and Pakistan. And some of these acquisitions were very controversial in terms of the high valuation and so on. And there was a need to navigate through those acquisitions and making sure that they pay well in terms of returns to Maybank. The second challenge was in respect of protecting Maybank from the global financial crisis. And the third challenge was in terms of the underlying performance of Maybank. Now, although Maybank had been number 1 for more than 10 years that time in 2008, but we saw that in terms of Maybank's growth, in terms of profit and asset size and financing size, Maybank was growing by about 5% per annum between 2002, 2003 to 2008. When the competitors like Public Bank here in red and CIMB were growing by 20% per annum. So at that point in time, when we did our analysis, if nothing was done within 2 years, Maybank would have been overtaken by Public Bank and CIMB around this time. And in fact, they almost did. So Maybank's profit dropped to 700 million because of the 2 billion ringgit impairments. But if you were to normalize it, the normal profit is about 2.7 billion, which is just above CIMB's and Public Bank. But by that time, the analysts had already assumed that Maybank would have been number 3 because in terms of market capitalization, Maybank's market cap dropped below to that of CIMB's and Public Bank. But Alhamdulillah, we turned that crisis into opportunity. We ramped up our performance improvement program. And by 2010, our profit had rebounded to 3.8 billion ringgit, and then it grew to 4.5 billion ringgit, 5.6 billion ringgit, and 6.4 billion ringgit by the end of 2013. So if you can imagine, by that period, the gap had widened with the other competitors, and that continued until today. So for 2019 results, for example, Maybank's profit of 8.2 billion ringgit is 49% higher than public bank's profit and 80% higher compared to CIMB. And credit must go to subsequent management, Datuk Farid and the team, who continued on that journey. Now, another challenge for Maybank then was how do we address this issue of riba in our income? And that was when Maybank introduced the Islamic First strategy, where we had examples of supermarket. So we were inspired by supermarket in the sense that if you were to go to the Tesco supermarket in London, there's a small halal section, but the rest of the supermarket is not necessarily halal. But if you were to go to the same supermarket, Tesco supermarket here in Malaysia, it's inverted in the sense that we have a small non-halal section, but the rest is halal. So by offering all customers who walk into the bank Sharia compliant products without them even asking, we were able to grow Islamic banking very fast. They were growing double compared to the conventional financing. And Alhamdulillah, Maybank today, with total assets of 245 billion ringgit, is now the largest Islamic bank in Malaysia. It is 3 times bigger compared to the pioneer Bank Islam. And it is also now the 5th largest Islamic bank in the world. And the global leader in Islamic finance, especially when it comes to Islamic capital markets and so on. So again, I just wanted to demonstrate the point here that when you look at the crisis, if handled properly, it can be turned into a great opportunity. So what are the lessons learned? So there are many. Maybe I can just focus on a couple of slides here. The first is, in whatever we do, we need to be clear on our mandate. We then need to perform a proper diagnosis of the company, looking at the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and the threats. Yes, I'm talking about the good old SWOT analysis that we learned in college before. I think it was relevant 30 years ago, and I think it's still relevant today. You then need to match the tasks required with the management talent that you have internally before you bring in reinforcements from outside to fill the gap. Revisit the vision and mission to ensure relevance, and important to articulate a clear purpose or reason for your being, and to also undertake scenario planning, because at the end of the day, you can't just assume there will only be one outcome. So there will be few possible outcomes, and make sure you are prepared for all those possible outcomes. You then need to formulate strategies and action plans together with your team, and syndicate them with all your stakeholders, whether it's the board, your shareholders, employees, regulators, and your business partners where relevant. And then you need to communicate your plans and update them regularly with all levels of employees in your organization. You set clear and measurable short-term and long-term targets with a clear timeline and accountability, meaning that who's supposed to do what, by when, and what is the expected outcome of the measures that you are implementing. For many of us, it's important to have a balanced scorecard, and performance management system. And as you progress, it's also important to align the interests of management and employees with that of the shareholders. And this is where going to the capital market is actually important. And the last is very important, is in terms of the need to share the rewards, not just among the senior management members, but at all level of employees. So for example, in case of Bursa Malaysia, this year has been a great year for us. Alhamdulillah, our profit increased by 94%. So we felt that rather than waiting for that typical bonus payments at the end of the year, where people will be paid in multiple months, whether it's actually 3 months or 4 months bonus, we decided to actually give an ex gratia amount of 3,000 ringgit to every single employee. So it doesn't matter whether they are the security guard or tea lady or a manager. So everyone gets 3,000 ringgit. So again, the idea would be, as you do well, share your spoils with the people, every single one of them. And I think in that you get much bigger commitment with the people. So that's actually the first set of management or lessons learned. So if I may maybe just go to the third one, which is to me it's very important for all of you as leader in your respective organization to have a very clear purpose, be visionary, articulate, authentic, and engaging, and must have unquestionable integrity. You don't have to be that typical loud corporate leader, as in the American corporate leaders of the past, to be effective. In fact, in many of our Asian organizations, being too loud, too aggressive can be counterproductive because our people, Asians, typically tend to be a bit more timid. So I think if you're more engaging, encouraging, it will work better as being compared to being too loud. The third point here is actually gone are the days when the CEO just needs to tell people what to do. In large organizations, leader will have to be more hands-on and provide appropriate guidance, not just tell people what should be done, but how things can be done. So it's actually leadership by example, and leadership by walking about, if like going to the ground. The fourth is about the need to be professional, honest, sincere, and being truthful to your board, your colleagues, and employees. And don't hesitate to say sorry and to admit your mistakes, because at the end of the day, mortals, we do make mistakes. What is important is to learn from them, if like. And the last is the need to focus on the job at hand and not to worry about your next career move. And because at the end of the day, your reputation will precede you. So in your case, being entrepreneurs, do what you can, do your best, and naturally, people will talk about you if you're a good person. Noticing that sometimes you may have failures in some of your ventures, but it's important to learn from them and to rise up again, inshallah. So I think perhaps I will stop here, and we'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have a bit later. So I think maybe for now, let me hand over to Datuk Umar, who will share with you about the lead market and so on. Datuk Umar.
Thank you, Tan Sri. Thank you, Rizal. I've had an opportunity to look at the questions. Let me just share my screen. Okay, share your screen. Application. Okay. See, dinosaurs can learn new tricks, Tan Sri. Very good morning. I think looking at the questions, it's about raising capital.
So just to be clear, are you able to hear Datuk Umar?
Yes, very clear.
Yes.
Very clear.
That's it. I think from starting point, people, I mean, as everyone's been very fascinated by the exchange and the growth, we've seen stock prices rise. I think the key thing to remember is at the exchange, we're actually a part of the real economy. We help you raise capital, employ people, pay dividends. Investors are two types. We have investors that invest for the long term. We have investors that invest for the shorter term. Now, speculation is a part of that, not good, not bad. But we have a view that our investors, so what do we provide? We provide a secondary market that allows people such as equity in your company. profiles change, they're then able to do it because we provide that market. Now, as Izmir knows, as you all know, capital is a continuum. So what we're showing with this slide is very much we have choices where we can raise capital. So at the exchange, we have the LEAP market, the ACE market, the main market. But there are other ways of raising capital. We have venture cap, P2P, ECF. And when you look at it, I think the key thing to see is it is about what are we trying to fulfill? Do we want to retain control, time to market? How quickly can we raise our capital? What is the imposition of investors on our business? And I'll touch a bit more on that as we go forward. I think the key thing to look at is, particularly when we look at P2P and ECF, second round financing becomes a little bit more difficult. Whereas if you're on a marketplace such as LEAP or ACE, depending on your size, secondary fundraising becomes more straightforward because you've already established a brand and a certain robustness to your business. But not denigrating in any way ECF and P2P. I think they are very exciting as well. Now, we have these three main boards. We'll be focusing and discussing about LEAP and ACE. We aspire to main. Now, it's really about, when we look at the LEAP market, it is a light touch market for raising capital. All of them require advisors, but I think the key when we look at it is LEAP is liberalised. Time to market with LEAP is much less. We have the ability to raise capital, and it has been a successful platform. More importantly, LEAP is designed for SMEs. It's to facilitate the process of growth. It was launched in 2017. And we've seen 34 companies list on LEAP. It's achieved what it was designed to achieve. Now, what we're focusing on now as we look at LEAP is secondary fundraising, and then also the way to move from the LEAP market, or graduate if you like, to the ACE market. Now, of course, there are always success stories. I won't dwell on the slide. I think MyChris is perhaps an interesting one. It started off relatively small and has grown, as well as graduating to the LEAP. Now, I think this is the piece we need to really think about. On ACE and LEAP, you do not need to be profitable to list, but you have to have a path to profitability. Your necessary license and permits need to be in place. Perhaps, if you like, the differentiating factor is around governance, the robustness of the same. Now, as entrepreneurs, conflict of interest is something perhaps at the back of your mind, but as when we go to the public, we are investing with other people's money. We're soliciting their funds. So conflict of interest becomes paramount, the whole governance piece. When we are looking at what we do and how we do it, and we're very mindful of it at the exchange, is, put my hands in the way, it's very, the key is there is a separation between the entrepreneur and the business. We do not encourage entrepreneurs to grow businesses and then put them into the listed asset. If you like, cherry picking what is good and what is less good and so on. What we have to really look at is you are putting your effort and you're co-investing and growing for the future. And of course, we want to see a sustainable business. Now, there are incentives available now for listing, tax deduction and so on, and it is not a bad time, but the key is really how do we get listed? Now, unfortunately, for all solutions, you will need to appoint an advisor. That being said, the time to market for the LEAP market is 6 to 8 months. And what you'd be looking for is the ability to raise capital quickly and efficiently to grow your businesses. Now, it's about size and scale. Main market, you need a profit track record. ACE market, line of sight to profit. LEAP market is the same. LEAP market is light touch. The regulatory obligations are less. And I think that's the key. Now, as we go forward, main market, ACE market require prospectus. Prospectus is not an onerous document, but has quite a degree of compliance in it. The LEAP market, we actually have an information memorandum, which is the offer document, it will contain pertinent information about the company. You have an advisor lodge the IM simultaneously with your IPO submission, and the approval is far more straightforward because it is with us. If you look at the ACE market is listing is approved by ourselves, prospectus is approved by the Securities Commission, but we're moving forward, and you would have seen the Chairman of the Securities Commission announce that the ACE market prospectus would also be coming to ourselves. While the main market approval is from the SC, and we facilitate the secondary market portion. A little touch on fees. We can take that up. We're sharing the deck with yourselves. Now, really at the exchange, we're here to help. We'll provide guidance, we'll direct, we'll even discuss who can be your advisors, what governance areas to consider, what to think about. This is really very much a teaser. I'm far more interested to talk to you about your businesses and see how we can help you raise capital. And it may not actually be with the exchange. We're here to grow all businesses because we're confident one day that you will come back to us. With that, I'd like to pass the floor back to Rizal and start the Q&A, because that's really why we're here today.
Thank you so much, Tan Sri. Thank you so much, Datuk. Some of the key points that we learned from Tan Sri itself, every crisis there is an opportunity. There is 9 tips of leadership shared by Tan Sri. This is based on his experience. A good leader must have a clear purpose, be visionary, articulate, authentic, engaging, and have unquestionable integrity. And your reputation definitely will precede you. And from the slide from Datuk Omar, we can see there is a lot of opportunity for you. If you want to go listing with Bursa Malaysia, definitely there is assistance and help from them in order to get you into the listings. All right, so straight, let's go for the Q&A. Okay.
It's good. Right there.
Okay, do you have a different set Q&A, or you want me to read out all the Q&A that you forward to me?
I think we can start with the forwarding questions.
All right, okay. So this is from Run Cloud. Here I have 3 questions. How to create a better corporate structure? Number 2, what is the best scale up strategy? Number 3, fundraising and road to IPO best practice. So the number 3, I think has been explained by Datuk. Number 1 also has been explained by Tan Sri from his first slide. And number 2, maybe we can ask Datuk Omar, what is the best scale up strategy?
Thank you, Rizal. I think the key thing, and I don't presume to know the business, when you're scaling up, you can either be organic or it can be through acquisition. The key thing is also fulfillment. And that path is very much unique to the opportunities being presented to yourselves at RunCloud. Now, it really is about having I'm not saying it's a unique proposition, but it's a clear line of sight. Organic growth, it's all about scale. It takes time, it takes capital. Is it possible to look at aggregating, combining assets, and building a stronger platform? The key, of course, is if you're acquiring assets, is you need to fund. And potentially the best way to fund would actually be venture cap, because the time to market, and the interesting thing about venture capital, so it goes hand in hand. What is our strategy, our fulfillment? We are aggregating. Then we need capital to grow our business. In growing the business, how do we seek capital? Venture cap will also provide some degree of robustness in decision making, if I may, because with the primary difference between a listing or venture cap or private equity, as I'll treat it as one bucket because it's one of size, is when we list, the entrepreneur remains in full control of the company, subject to the governance structure. With PE and venture cap, you have like-minded individuals who can actually share and help you craft the way forward in your strategy. And you actually become co-investors in the company. And they will, it can be intrusive at times. Apologies is me, but you know how it is. We want to get our result. We need to help drive it. And I think that's also the key. So I would picture the way forward in growing is really to think, is it organic? Takes time. Can we aggregate? Can we acquire? If we're aggregating and acquire, I mean, bearing in mind we have to be really clear of purpose, et cetera, as Tan Sri touched on previously, is venture cap, and I'm not pushing anyone in that direction, but the decision is how to formulate the best structure, how to access capital. If you are going for a listing on LEAP, you will need to, the burden may be greater because that burden is not shared. Tan Sri, thoughts?
Yeah, if I may, with two things. One is in terms of scaling up operations-wise. So I'm an accountant, very conservative. I like to go organic. Means that, and to me, that's actually where you create most value. You look at acquisition, only you have gained strength, and you are able to actually buy things cheaply. So that way, you continue to retain control and so on. And again, being an accountant, I'm also very sequential in my approach. Start with domestic, and then scale up to look at the region before you go international. I know that some people, they are very aggressive, wanted to grow from day one, international, original, but learning from my own mistake, one can never be a global champion if your home base is weak. I learned that when I was at Telkom Malaysia. My mandate was to be a regional telecoms group. Right? So in my first year, I focused on entering into Singapore, Indonesia, strengthen our position in Cambodia, in Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and so on. Thinking that our home base, Malaysia, is taken care of, Celcom will be okay and so on. But I was wrong because after 12 months, although international were growing very fast, and as a group, our profits were growing by 20% per annum, but our domestic base was weakened because of the fixed to mobile migration, and even Celcom was losing market share. So we then regrouped, we re-strategized and addressed the home market. And alhamdulillah, it worked. And we strengthened our position in Malaysia, and then we continued with our regional expansion. Again, that's actually the thinking of a conservative accountant, learning from past mistakes. But of course, with the new technology, I think the good thing is that now you can have access a global market much faster. The scaling up therefore can be much faster. The other aspect of scaling up is in terms of funding. So Datuk Omar spoke about venture cap, and then you raise IPO and so on. So again, at the end of the day, it's about how much capital you have in the first place. So if you have rich parents and family members able to fund you, I think it's great. Then you're able to hold on to your maximum equity possible. And therefore, as you expand, you tend to look more for that because you want to retain 100% control of your business. But as you go along and your capital requirements become much bigger, and naturally you will need more equity capital at the onset. And this is where going to venture capital or other equity fundraising platforms will work if you're able to get a good valuation for your company. And from then you intersperse with that and so on. So again, it depends on the type of business structure. But at this stage, I would always caution against over gearing. So it means that it's better to get more equity in your growth stage so that you have less pressure on the debt side, because that comes with interest servicing obligation and the risk of I suppose bankruptcy and so on if you don't make it. Whereas equity, you share in the venture, so it's proportionate the risk taking, if you like. Again, it depends on the circumstances. Happy to deep dive further to your particular situation.
Thank you, Datuk. Thank you, Tan Sri. All right. Of course, there is several ways for you to scale up. As mentioned by Datuk Omar, you can go to venture capital. According to Tan Sri, well, he's from accountant background. Okay. Let's move to the next question. This is from Reza. Where's Reza? Oh, Reza, the only guy who wearing red t-shirts. How can a startup hire the best of talent when they had to compete with MNC and GLC? How can a company go beyond a founder-lead company? Maybe Tan Sri? Mas, can you please mute your voice? Mas. Yeah. Thank you, Mas.
Thank you. Sorry. So maybe I can take that. So I guess my view again is that in the olden days, naturally MNCs, big corporations will have the edge over startups in terms of attracting talent. Naturally, because people tend to look for secure jobs, stable with a lot of benefits and so on. And that was certainly applicable during my time. Why? Among others, because I did not have any social safety net because I came from a poor family. So I need to actually earn as much income as possible, secure a job, so that I can actually take family out of poverty. With the younger generation, it's very different. So many of you, and even younger people, so they have parents who are doing relatively okay. And at the very least, they have a decent home, food is there, and so on. So they don't have to actually earn income to support the family and so on. So I guess that being the case, they can be more adventurous. So they're looking for growth, excitement, and things that they can connect with. So that's why my belief is that if you have a clear value proposition and a cause that your prospective employees share, you have a better chance of getting them on board compared to bigger and more boring organizations, if you like. And of course, it also comes with risk reward as well, right? Because I think young people, they don't mind going in with low pay and so on if they have a small stake in the company. So I think this is where the value proposition is that if you offer some form of equity or profit sharing to the people at the onset, then your ability to attract talent will be even better. Now, if I may, in terms of offering equity participation, you can look at multiple options in the sense that you don't necessarily have to offer a percent, okay, I'll give you 5% or 3% or 1%. You can actually put it in the form of a trust for all employees. Means that, okay, I have an employee trust that will own 20%, for example, of the shares in the company. So whoever joins the company, will have a portion of that 20% stake. Then it may look much bigger in a sense compared to getting or giving people 0.5 here and there, because the risk there is that you don't know how much more you have to give during the course of your journey, if you like. So I hope that answers your question.
If I may answer, I think the key is alignment, shared beliefs. That's how, I mean, with large corporations, we struggle to communicate, to engage, and we want to drive alignment. With much smaller, agile, nimble teams, I think yourselves as leaders will be able to achieve common points and resonate that you're working to a common purpose. And it's exciting. And when there's excitement and shared purpose, I think you will be able to attract the talent that is interested in your common goals. And then, of course, as Tan Sri quite rightly said, there is compensation. But compensation is part one part of the equation. The other piece, of course, is sharing. It's not just a job. If people are passionate, small, nimble, the real challenge is, if you like, to keep that nimbleness and that excitement as you grow, as I hope you do.
Thank you, Tan Sri. Thank you, Datuk. All right, so let's move to the next question from Faiz Fadila. First question, where do you see the banking industry going with the introduction of digital banking framework by Bank Negara? What are some of the strategies you foresee could be useful for a challenger bank to acquire more customers? Do you foresee Islamic banking or the Islamic economy at large being the focus of Malaysia with a global unicorn in the space based here? Number 3, I think, has been explained by Tan Sri on the last slide, if I'm not mistaken. So number 2 and number 1 quite interesting. A new framework by Bank Negara. Maybe Tan Sri?
Yeah, well, thank you, Rizal and Faiz for that question. Now, clearly, the traditional banking model is under severe threat for a number of reasons. One is in terms of disintermediation. So I think with more P2P funding and so on, so banks will be disintermediated, if you like. Then there's also the issue about real-time transactions being done, which is more efficient at much lower cost, and that will result in very minimal free float floating around. So, for example, banks now they enjoy a fair bit of free float. If you have money in the bank in current account, that's sitting idle, not earning anything or very little, and that's actually the one that the bank reinvests and they make some money from that. So I guess that is becoming much less and lesser. And I think again, for a digital bank, they don't need physical infrastructure. So Maybank, for example, has got to retain 380 branches, and it comes with cost and so on. So I guess the cost of reaching out to the customer base is actually much lower. So what is happening now is that all banks have got a digital strategy. The difference is that most banks doing it as part of the bank is a very evolution in nature. But some banks are taking a different route and they are setting up separate units, separate digital banks, like which works better. To me, it's probably again, I'm the conservative accountant. In the case of Maybank, I've always been pushing them to go on their own. Yes, you collaborate with others, but you don't buy 10%, 20% stake in ventures. To me, Maybank should own that digital bank, but it can collaborate with other players, whether it's actually other e-commerce platforms, payment systems, and so on. So that would be my approach. So I think the second question was, what are some strategies to acquire more customers? Well, again, I always believe that the businesses that make money are the ones that own the customers. So if you're a manufacturer, your margin is actually very little. But if you're the retailers, that's actually where you earn a lot more. So a good example is your Agoda, your Airbnb, and so on. Because they own the customers, they charge hotels 16, 17, 18% even of the room charges. Now imagine in the case of the hotels, as it is now, they are struggling to make money. And you'll be lucky if they can make even 5% return, right? Most of them, the ones which are profitable, only make maybe 2 or 3%. But here you are, 17, 18% taken care or taken off by all these online OTAs and so on, which is crazy, but that's reality. The closer you are to the customers, the more margin you make, and you dictate what gets supplied to them. And that's why you have people like your Alibaba, of course your Shopee, Lazada, and so on, making huge money because they control the customers. And from there, of course, they spin off to Ant and so on. So my suggestion to my banking colleagues would be, make sure you own the banks. And in the case of Maybank, with their Maybank to you, now using me and so on, that's actually the effort to actually make sure they control all the customers. So not to outsource it to anyone. So I don't like agencies, if like, in most cases.
Echoing Tan Sri's thoughts, I've sold a number of businesses over the years. We've always attracted a premium when we own the distribution. The key is the customer. If you have distribution, you can extract a premium. If you're unfortunately, and I don't like the term just a service provider, but if you're helping someone else service their customer and you don't own the customer, your value is less. Touching on Tan Sri's point vis-a-vis Agoda or Ant and so on. I think when you look at a challenger bank, they will be looking at how to own the customer, and it'll be through, is it a relationship with Maxis? I understand challenger banks are talking to Maxis now, Axiata, wanting to actually use that mobile network base to actually create distribution. Of course, their cost structure is less, they don't have high street, they'll use PayNet to address cash needs and so on. So it's all about product and also owning that distribution. How do you reach the customer efficiently, quickly, cheaply? And if you then own the customer, you can do so much more.
Yeah, Rizal, can I make some comments about the Islamic banking? So indeed,
Sure, Tan Sri,
I think
sure.
my view is that I don't think any Malaysian bank can become a global leader. It's not possible. Why? Because it's a very capital-intensive business. Yes, regional leader like Maybank and CIMB and so on. But if there is one area in financial services where a Malaysian entity can become a global leader, and that's in Islamic finance. And I think, Alhamdulillah, Maybank Islamic has been successful in getting there. But that's within the context of conventional or traditional approach without digital. So I think in the digital space, there is opportunity for a global Islamic financial services leader to be created. So I'm not sure to what extent Maybank is pursuing that, but this is one opportunity for the other smaller players in our market to go for. So for example, if I can look at the smallest banking group here in Malaysia, that's Affin Banking Group. They are public listed. The share price is now 158. They have a market capitalization of 3.3 billion. Compared to Maybank at 90 billion, right? So you can see the huge gap. So Maybank is 20 times bigger than Affin Bank. So there is no way that Affin Bank can compete with Maybank in terms of the traditional physical approach. But I think if Affin Bank were to be converted to become a fully fledged Islamic financial supermarket, leveraging on their very strong investment banking, their broking business, and their asset management business, and using technology at that, they can actually grow to become a global complete Islamic financial supermarket, if you like, using digital technology. I hope they do that because it would be great to see some of these entities which have got a small base but enough resources to be able to grow to become a truly global player, if you like. Beyond that, there's MBSB Bank, there's other smaller entities. Yeah, so use Islamic and use sustainable finance and use technology to grow. Thank you.
Thank you, Tan Sri. Thank you, Datuk. Okay, this is a question from Noor Hilmi. Maybe Datuk can answer this from his point of view. Do you see Malaysia can attract more foreign investors with the current policies that we have? Do you see Malaysia can be a hub for global businesses, especially in tech? Do you think Malaysia should be more open in allowing businesses to hire professional foreign talent in Malaysia? Looks like the current policy is not supportive towards that.
I think the key thing, investors are looking for growth. There's an ebb and flow. If we look at our market, for example, at the moment we have an underlying rate of foreign investors owning shares in Malaysian companies around about 21%. Highest it has been 24% some years ago. So there's always a base level, and then what we've seen, and there's been a lot of discussion, is the 3% difference, if you like, is speculative trading. They come in, they come out, they're short-term investors. So as we come out, if you like, and our companies start to grow again, we will see foreign investors come back. It's always about price. To some extent, there will be concern regarding the availability of ringgit, but that's addressed. I don't think that's a problem anymore. Now, as for Malaysia being a global hub, I think we should remember that we have EPF is one of the largest funds in the world, around about number 9 on total assets. EPF is very keen to invest. I think the challenge for Malaysia vis-a-vis foreign investors is our population size. We have Indonesia, we have Vietnam, we have Thailand as our close neighbors who have very large domestic markets. So for Malaysia to be a champion and attract foreign investment, we need to be thinking about how do we become the hub for supporting ASEAN growth. And this is a conversation I've been having with Tunku Zakri at EPF. EPF is very interested to joint venture and support companies that wish to be based in Malaysia, not just servicing Malaysia, but servicing ASEAN. And this is, I think, a very positive. We have good laws, we have intelligent people, we have certainty of contract, and that makes Malaysia attractive. And we need to reach out and be mindful that, yes, we may not have the size of or the domestic consumption, domestic economy, but we can actually be an integral part of that solution, servicing countries with larger domestic consumption. And if we look at our electronics, for example, and what we've done in how we've grown the electronics industry, and in our case in point, which was in my deck, in Penang, they're an export-driven business, but they have foreign investors. So it's not all doom and gloom, it's merely timing. Now, hiring foreign talent, I think we need to be mindful that, yes, we need to hire foreign talent clearly, hello. But at the end of the day, I think the key is also we have to be mindful of growing and building our own domestic skill set. It is not merely, so it's about balancing up, it is about transferring knowledge, it is about retaining knowledge. But where we have a gap that we need to fill, we've been able to hire. Just recently, of course, with COVID, we're now rethinking that, but we're very much committed to bringing in talent and having technology transfer. I hope I've addressed the question.
Well, thank you, Datuk Omar. If I can add result, sorry, Datuk Omar is a foreign talent, so he's so biologically is 50% Melayu and 50% British, but he's an Australian citizen through some incidences and so on. But anyway, as far as we're concerned, for international policy, actually 100% Malaysian, and certainly Malay at heart. So if I may, maybe to answer that question, yes, I think Malaysia can be a great hub, especially for this region. And we have proven that we've been able to attract quite a number of multinationals to locate their shared services and their regional headquarters to be based here in KL. And we have Invest KL, which is the agency tasked to attract all these multinationals to set up their regional hubs here. So in the financial services industry, I'm not sure whether many of you know, so beyond HSBC, so Standard Chartered, for example, they have more than 3,000 people, I think, here in Malaysia, doing shared services. And I'm not talking about the call center. I'm talking about real shared services in human capital, IT, accounting services, management services, and so on. And there's many more in terms of opportunity. Where I think we can do better is perhaps to relax and be a bit more open to hire foreigners, in the sense that for multinationals that are here, if you can allow them to have 5-10% of their workforce to be foreigners, that will create an international environment here in Malaysia, such that for all the Malaysians, for the 80-90% Malaysians that are employed in that organization, they will get the opportunity to interact with this foreign talent. When you have that, you also enable these multinationals to easily locate here, because they can then hire people from their other international offices, whether it's from South America or Africa or Europe, US, and so on. So to me, it will create a very conducive ecosystem, which will then create demand for property and other services, because these people, expatriates, when they're here, so they have demand for education, for housing, for food, and so on, and that will continue to help grow the economy. If I can give you one example, in terms of the low cost of living that we have here, which should be attractive to expatriates. So just consider the KLCC area, which is the most central location, and among others, there are many developments. There's one development called Troika, and it's designed by Sir Norman Foster, the famous architect from the UK. And the going price there is about 1,100 ringgit per square foot in terms of the apartment there. Now, that's hardly 200 pounds per square foot. And if you were to buy an apartment in London, equivalent would be in the Knightsbridge area, it would be nothing less than 3,000 pounds per square foot. So, and at pounds per square foot, it's even cheaper, not just compared to, say, Singapore, but it's much cheaper compared to Jakarta, Bangkok, Manila, and so on. So I think the point here is actually we've got all these ingredients to attract a lot more expatriates, which in turn will attract more regional headquarters and businesses to reside here in Malaysia. Thank you.
Thank you, Datuk. Thank you, Tan Sri. All right, next questions we have from Nazrov. Bill, please. It's not like, I don't think this is kind of questions. It's more like building relationships in minority stakes in Maybank.
Sorry, since Nazruf is here, what do we want to ask the question himself?
Yeah, Nazrov.
Okay. So Bilqis currently is in good relationship with Maybank. We want to drive it further. We are looking at maybe direct investment. Is Maybank open? Because I'm only we are very close to the cash management team and not the C level yet. So being former CEO of Maybank, are you open to invest in tech companies directly?
Yes. So again, this is a typical conservative person as well. So my thinking has always been about directly owning core competency. So for example, when I joined the bank, quite a fair bit of the IT functions were outsourced. So initially it was part of the cost reduction efforts, but over time we found it to be not cheap. It was expensive. Plus, it took a long time for us to develop new products and so on. So that's when we started to reacquire back the outsource function and develop our team. Because at the end of the day, to me, in terms of technology, that should be a core competency of a banking group. Maybank even set up a development center in Bangalore. So these are Maybank staff, but operating out of Bangalore, if you like. Of course, in some cases you work with others, but when I was there, I don't believe in buying 10%, 10% stakes in all these entities, because to me, it's a core function that should be owned by Maybank. So that's the thing. But having said that, I don't know, maybe their thinking may have changed now. So I would suggest that you talk directly with people there. When it comes to digital business, the chief technology officer is Suhail, good guy, very switched on. So speak with him.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Tan Sri.
Tan Sri.
Thank you, Tan Sri. Next we have Mazlita. Mazlita have a questions. You want to ask directly or I can just read? Mazlita?
Better
So what
directly.
I put what I asked you. All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I
So
think my question just now was actually very general. Yeah. So perhaps put because it's quite general from my point of view. I've known like all these guys who like serial entrepreneurs. So kind of like really starting again. So yeah. Perhaps this I can ask. Thank you.
so
I had difficulty to hear you. Lita.
yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, all right. Can you guys hear me?
Mas,
Yeah. Okay. Then.
No, I think
The noise, the music noise.
there's a bit of background noise, Bazit.
okay, all right. So Mas' question
I
is,
understand.
Mas' question is, when is the right time to raise fund? Is there such thing too early or too late? And second one is, what is the best way to motivate the team? Is basically, the number two has been briefed by Tan Sri in his slide. Part of it is actually giving bonus. Right. So number one, when is the right time to raise fund? Yeah, I think maybe Tan Sri can answer
I
that,
mean-
or Datuk.
Thank you, Maz. It's a very good question. Unfortunately, to be more definitive, we need to understand the business. It's about meeting needs. And cash flow is king. We need to pay wages, we need to pay our creditors. and making that work, we also need to meet our needs and aspirations. Now, unfortunately, I can't give a definitive answer. When is the right time? There is no, you go too early, if you like, if you're raising equity. If you're raising equity, maybe your valuations are maximized. You go too late, then you're missing out on opportunity. That is the entrepreneur's challenge. Debt, standby lines of credit are not cheap. They're expensive. It is about balancing these needs and wants. I'm afraid Tansi may also have some views, but there is no right time. You're always anticipating your needs for funding. I myself, also an accountant and quite risk averse. Debt funding maximizes the return to the shareholder because interest is tax deductible. The problem with debt is you have to pay interest and it weakens your balance sheet. So I've always had a preference, particularly for small businesses, is to have a lower gearing ratio and look to equity, but it is not always possible. So it's really, I don't like the term greed, but it is about balancing the desire for maximum value for your business that you're putting your heart and soul in, and then you have to share that value with someone else. It's very emotive, to be frank. And that's why it's always good to have colleagues and also peers to bounce around a conversation and say, look, this is what I'm, and that's why we're here. Mentors are here to actually help with that question and ask, and that conversation should be, what are you hoping to achieve? When do you need to achieve it by? What are your immediate needs? And that then guides the question to raise capital, be it debt, to raise funding, be it debt, or to raise capital through equity, because there's a short-term need or long-term need. Are you transforming the company? But the real key is, unfortunately, the more you grow your company, the better the value, to be frank. Tansi?
No, I think we already answered that. I have nothing to add. Go ahead, Rizal.
All right. So we have a next questions by Nick from MoveB.
Yep. Assalamualaikum, Tan Sri and Datuk. My name is Nick. I'm from MoveB. So basically, we are doing the PWA car sharing or the ABA for cars. So I have a question here. Coming from the Grab experience, like I used to be together with the pioneer team for Grab, and we can see that the Malaysia lost Grab to Singapore. So when it comes to the technology company like us, what are your comment regards to the like initiative that Malaysia is currently doing to basically protecting tech company from losing to other country? Because if I can share a bit, we speak to some of the prominent VC in Singapore and Indonesia and some in the US, and they are offering to move to Singapore and then give us lend us like $3 to $5 million just like that. So what I comment in that, and one more thing, because we can see, like me at least, I can see that the ecosystem is like a bit broken. Our right leg is pressing on the accelerator pedal. Our left leg is pressing on the brake pedal. So at the end of the day, the engine is roaring, but it's not moving that much. So that's what we can see when it comes to regulations and the capital, access to capitals and whatnot. So what I comment, Datuk and Tan Sri. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick.
Yeah, if I may, obviously our venture capital ecosystem is not as good. But having said that, we are getting better. We have learned from the Grab issue. I guess the challenge for us is that we don't have enough risk capital enough. Because typically all the capital that we have, the funds that we have, whether it's in EPF or PNB or Khazanah and QAP, so most, apart from Khazanah, most of these monies are people's money. and therefore there's a need to invest in safe investments and so on. So let's say in the case of EPF, so by design, in terms of the strategic asset allocation, half of their funds actually invested in government bonds, fixed income instruments, and so on, which are much safer. And the rest invest in public equities. Again, these are public listed companies with track record and so on. They have very little VC money because of the higher risk nature. Compared to the US, for example, where there's a lot of angel capital. So the rich people, they tend to allocate a lot more of their money for investments and so on. So in Malaysia, we don't have that many rich people who are prepared to actually fund, except for their family businesses and so on. So in the case of Grab, for example, so naturally the Tan Chong family put in a fair bit of money there initially. And then even we have Tan Sri Azmi, who does quite a fair bit of this into funding, but we need more and more people. So all the billionaires, if only they can allocate 10% of their wealth for angel funding, venture capital funding, and I think that'll be better. But having said that, in the context of the government, so there's been quite a number of initiatives, tax incentives, setting up funds, and so on, to help create this. But I think my view is that if we have a very clear value proposition, I don't think these funds will not want to invest. But perhaps, again, it depends on the quantum that we're talking about here. I had opportunity to read your email, Nick, and I must say it's quite interesting business you have. I used to tell my friends that, look, why can't we have a car sharing kind of platform? So I think this is indeed what you've done. I wanted to start with Langkawi first because Langkawi is a duty free. That's where you can have all the fancy cars. You can have this kind of arrangement. I think would be great. You can actually lower the cost. And now you've made it not just confined to Langkawi, but this is a global platform. I think that would be great. It's exciting. I'm just curious how much do you charge the car owners? Because again, I used to be an Uber driver, right? So my view is actually Uber took 25% of my income, which is very high, I thought. So if you can come up with, if like it's 10 to maybe 12.5%, I thought it would be more proportionate to the investments that they're putting in. Because where they waste money is a lot of all these promotions, in my view. But I think it can really lower their cost and not waste on unnecessary promotions and give more to the drivers. And I think it will work better. So again, if your model here is actually you take only 10%, for example, I think that's workable. Because at the end of the day, you lower the price to more effective level.
Thank you, Tan Sri, for that comments. I appreciate that. Yes, I mean to add a bit, we are taking from 10 to 25%, so ranging from the insurance coverage. Talking about your idea for Langkawi, I think we should try to explore if there's any chance for us to explore in Langkawi. Like we can start with the EV and then push out from Langkawi all the way to the center of Malaysia, which is KL, in order to basically putting EV to a norm in the next 3 to 5 years later on.
Thanks, Nick.
We have that separate conversation, Nick.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks, Tan Sri.
We have separate conversation.
Yeah. Thank you, Tan Sri.
Okay, all right. So next one we have Nasir from Job Parking. His question is, what is the best way to expand our services, especially Jom Parking services within Southeast Asia? I think this questions is not just for Jom Parking, but I think for all of them in this mentoring sessions. They all have a potential of expansions to Southeast Asia. Tan Sri, you have experience in telecom expansions. Maybe you can share.
Yes. So I think again going back to my earlier statement that one cannot be a global champion if your home base is weak. So I think it's important for you to make sure that whatever business that you have here in Malaysia, you do it well. Then you can actually expand it into other countries. And again, in other countries, you have to choose which country in Southeast Asia that will work for you. And naturally, there are intricacies in going to the respective areas. Although we're supposed to have the ASEAN business community is meant to be a free trade area and so on. But there are other non-tariff barriers that are actually being imposed. So you need to be mindful of what they are. In some markets, a bit easier, probably Singapore, for example. But Indonesia and Thailand may be more complex. And in Indonesia, the market is huge. But having said that, there are many local intricacies. So in some of these places, you may need some local partners, but again, getting the right local partner is not necessarily easy. So I guess the best way would be to speak with your banker as you expand into these markets. For example, if your banker here in Malaysia is actually Maybank, talk to Maybank if you want to go to Indonesia, because they can link you up with the right people in that market. So in the case of Maybank, you can do it for Philippines, Indonesia, Singapore, Cambodia, and even Thailand quite easily, because Maybank has got presence in all these countries. Likewise, if you have, Stanby also got quite established network. Public Bank is more in the Cambodia, Vietnam, and so on, the Indo-Chinese market. So again, my suggestion would be entrench your position here in Malaysia first, because beyond Klang Valley, other opportunities in JB, in Penang, for example. So again, I hope that's answered your question. But if I may also encourage you, sometimes when we come up with new product, we tend to look at it from a proprietary perspective. So we want to get exclusive, and then people must use our own system before they can use the service. Whilst that in the past may work in forcing people to download your app and so on, but that may not work in the long run, because to me, it's important for whatever product that you have, it must be, there must be open system. So for example, there was a time when SMS was introduced, it was only unique to Telkom, to Celcom, to Maxis, and so on. So you can't interoperate with other network. So it failed, volume did not grow. But the moment you open it, then it worked. So likewise with payment system, payment gateways, and so on, if you try to control it, it will not work. So I do hope that your parking system here that you have is interoperable with other systems and other payment systems too.
Tan Sri, Nasir here. If I may to add, yes, our platform is open platform. We can connect to all these so-called system provider. In fact, this is our so-called our visions to be like a system that can connect it to all the other applications. We can coexist with other applications. But I think because we are a technology company that focus on technology, we do have limitation in terms of so-called connections, so-called that somebody else can bring us to that respective entity or local councils in this case. That's the reason why we are moving forward to explore other than Malaysia. For instance, like we have presence in Saudi and Sri Lanka now, and yes, we are doing, like, for example, white label for them, so it's not limited to our own brand. So that's the reason why we have to go out with this. But again, I think we're looking to have like maybe more people can bring us to the next level because of that's why we're also looking at if we may need to have, for example, somebody else to be our so-called coach or mentor that can bring us to the next level. Thank you.
And some of this mentoring can be done by your venture capital provider. And that's actually one of the advantages of having a VC early on. To have a certain stake, they can actually, they will spend time with you and guide you into the other markets.
And give some reach.
All right. So to echoing what Nasir just mentioned, this is another question from Izzat, Tracker Hero. Do we need a political appointees as a board of director or any other positions if want to go to listed?
No.
No,
No.
not from my perspective. Yeah.
From our perspective, we want people who are, I mean, someone could happen to be a politician. Someone could happen to be a member of a party. That's just happens by chance. What directors have to help management grow the business, provide guidance, a slightly different perspective. I think I'm always mindful of the danger of groupthink. We management, we all talk to each other. We think it's a wonderful idea. We convince ourselves it's a wonderful idea, particularly yourselves as entrepreneurs driving your business. We're passionate. We're, if you like, in our mind, we're passionate. We have ownership of our business. Our directors should come to us and actually give us a slightly different perspective, challenge our thinking, and that way we get the best result for our company. That's what we're looking for. So whether someone's a politician or not a politician is not the key. It's whether that individual can help you grow your business and make sound decisions.
Yeah, if I may, I believe in diversity as a source of strength for any organization. With diversity, you're able to attract good people, the right talent. So not just from an ethnic perspective, but also from profile, meaning that make sure that you have marketing people, engineers, accountants, lawyers in your organization performing the different roles. And likewise on the board, make sure that you have that mix and skills. I wouldn't encourage you to align your company with any political entity, because when you do that, you are limiting your reach and access to market. So you should profile yourself, your Malaysian company with global aspiration, and so that you are actually appealing to all. So the moment you have a person from a political party, the next election, even before election, you're actually pushing away people who don't like that party.
You're reducing opportunities and market access because people are branding you. We should be agnostic. We believe in our service and our product, and we want to offer as widely as possible, rather than rather than closing doors, we want to open doors.
So I think, make no mistake, PR is very important, public relations. So you need to have good relationship with everyone, especially the government of the day and so on. But you don't need to actually put them on your board. You don't need to hire them. So work with them, work with everyone for that matter.
Okay, thank you, Tan Sri. Thank you, Datuk. All right, this will be our last questions from Aizat. How to manage speed and SOP when you scale up? how do you fundraise on Series A and above, above $8 million?
Dr. Omar, you want to take that?
Well, I'll take the funding question. I think, well, two ways. You've got two choices. We have venture cap, and we also could go to LEAP or ACE market, depending on the robustness of what we have and what our aspirations and medium-term needs are. Now, I think the key, Isaac, is valuation. And getting the right valuation for the business. When you look at the investor profile, there is a hunger for tech companies on the exchange currently, no two ways about it. But you may find the venture caps giving you a more compelling valuation. But then that has to be seen in the context that they will be a little bit more intrusive in the business, but they can also assist you in opening doors, scaling up, and so on. So there isn't quite, I'm happy to have another a bilateral chat and help you along the journey and provide that mentoring, no problem at all. I'd be delighted, in fact. So just in this forum, or more definitive, because there are opportunities. And of course, I know people in the venture cap space, we can help you and guide you in that regard, or I would love you to come to the exchange. But it's about your governance structure already in place, how much reporting you would like to do. If we go to the public, there will be a governance structure in place because we're actually taking other people's money. I tend to think of a venture cap very much as your partner in business. And so if your governance structure maybe, you'll still have your governance structure, but your reporting requirements to your investors will be less because they're probably asking for a seat on the board and they're actually with you all the way. And so if you like, they're two eyes on and maybe two hands on the business as well as your partner. Where if we go listing, our investors only get to see us when we publish information, provide information, because they are trusting us to run the business and grow the business together for them.
Thank you. If I may, first question, Azad. So in terms of how to manage speed and SOP as you scale up. Now, I always believe in structuring your business on a modular basis, and it's fit for purpose and fit for size. But make sure that when you do it initially, it's done such a way that you can add more modules and scale up accordingly. And naturally get that benefit by using a lot of technology. So make sure when you design your system architecture-wise, have that in mind. Because otherwise, you'll be constrained and you need to revamp completely. So the same thing with SOPs as well. So
I think the key when we look at scalability is to make sure the application doesn't have inherent limits. So you can bolt it on. Some applications, because of the way the math is structured for their logic, you can't go above a certain size. So it's just something to be mindful of.
Okay. Thanks so much, Mr. Abdul and Datuk Umar. Really appreciate it.
I mean, please, just reach out to email to all participants. There's no magic to my email. Umar@BursaMalaysia.com.
Definitely.
All right, so Datuk Umar already gave out his email address, omar@bursamalaysia.my. Okay, so we're going to have another 13 minutes before the session ends. So I will call up each one of you. Maybe you can. This is the opportunity for you to present yourself about what you do. Maybe your achievements, or maybe any success story you want to share. Let's start with Nazruf. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Rizal, for the opportunity. So Billplace have been growing 2-3x every year in terms of revenue, from a low 500,000, 2.2, followed by 5.5. This year we will hit 11 million ringgit. And our GMB would be 3 billion this year. So just like Bursa Malaysia, our best month ever within our 6-year period of existing is during the peak of COVID. That is in the month of April and recently October. So we would love to. We have a project 2024, want to IPO, but especially Datuk Omar, can you please tell me the benefits versus places like Singapore, Australia, Hong Kong? Why Malaysia?
Malaysia has investors with deep pockets and longer arms. It's about superior valuation. Oh, I turned it off. My apologies. Thanks, Astrid. It's about superior valuation and time to market. Now, of course, I'm pro my market, and when we look at it, it really is that view of how does the regulator engage with you? How does the market run? Who are your investors you're reaching to? It is always easier for a Malaysian business. It's more compelling because our investors understand investors have to visualize what we're offering, where we sit in the market, so they understand our value. Then we get the valuation we believe we need to get. That being said, we are now educating a new group of investors away from, if you like, the older economy, which is manufacturing, property, oil and gas, and so on, and into new technology. So not just manufacturing, but actually software solutions, service industry, and so on. That is the future. So the real key is ease of listing. More importantly, it will always come down to valuation, because we could make it very easy, but if you don't get the valuation you won't want to come to us. And so Malaysia has always had the ability to take very large issuances. Of course, we're not talking about that here, but there is a very keen appetite for technology-based companies, service companies at this point.
But a dual listing is available, right?
Yeah, well, dual listing means you'll have a home exchange and you'll have another exchange. So it's a question of size, Nazrul. You need to. It's about liquidity. So when I was talking in the presentation, I'm saying, well, what does the exchange do? The exchange provides liquidity so we can continually raise capital. So investors are not trapped. Now, if we don't have adequate size, you have two markets where you can't have trading. And so it's also a question of how much we take to market. So you need to have adequate liquidity so your investors are comfortable subscribing to more shares. So that's a scale piece. So I think that's key as well. So when we take the asset to market, are we seeking funds to invest in our company and grow it? Or is it our intention, I call it taking a little bit of food off the table, I'm actually taking some cash out of my business by listing it. Now, there are these different thought processes behind it. But investors are always very keen to see entrepreneurs reinvest in their business and co-invest, because they're looking for growth as well as dividend.
Yeah. If I mean, Azrul, it's not just about money and valuation. I think it's about purpose, right? So for me, it's very important for all of us to stay grounded to our roots, and that's actually our identity. And is it always better on the other side? So not necessarily better. Over the years, I've come across many entrepreneurs who went for listing in Singapore, in London, in Australia in particular, yes, after the initial euphoria about valuation, things have to come down, and at the end of the day, they delisted their companies and they did not achieve much. Whereas when you are at home with a strong base, you have strong following, again, strong purpose, you can actually expand that. So do we always value our companies low? No. Look at our glove companies. They are actually valued at 40 times current PE and so on.
You get us echoing that. Something says you get a strong valuation. But if I may just share, it is not about your primary, it is not about your first listing. It is about ease of capital raising, your secondary listing. We want you to grow. And so that's the case, if you like, of listing on the exchange, is that secondary issuance. We always encourage entrepreneurs to list. When you list, make sure there's adequate free float, i.e. there is enough shares in the market. Do not be greedy, but be in partnership with your shareholders. So when you want to access more capital, people have had a good experience. They recognize you, they respect what you're doing, and they're happy to subscribe to more shares and bring new investors along the journey with you. That's key.
All right, thanks, Datuk, and thanks, Tasri. Oh, Nazrul, I told you to share your success story. You ask questions. Okay. Okay. But then we almost finished. All right. I really appreciate each of you just maybe give one line about yourself. Basically just a simple introduction to Tan Sri and Datuk, so they can recognize you on the streets later on, or maybe they can recognize you while they are during workout or joggings. Okay. Let's next we start with Ismail.
Me? Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Riza. Hello, everyone. I've met some of you before, and I've met actually Datuk, Omar. Hi to you again. And Tan Sri as well. I think we bumped in a few events as well. So we are a private equity company focused in, we're sector agnostic. Basically, we focus on anything that has a potential that can make money. So we recently won the Penjana Fund, Alhamdulillah. So we are looking for good startups or even growth companies. They are obviously Malaysian. And we have matched the Penjana Fund that we won. So it's a matching fund of 50%. So basically the government has given, I think, an allocation to us 100 million, and we've matched that with another 100 million. So the total fund size that we're building over 7 years is 200 million ringgit. And we'll be doing it in the form of venture debt or equity. So that's what Cruistone does. So if you guys would like to talk to us, feel free to reach out to Riza. Thank you.
Thank you, Ismail. Yeah.
Sorry, Riza, if I can ask one question, if it's not a rude question. What's target ROI? Don't want to scare away your colleagues on the call. I'm just interested.
Sorry, okay. Me?
Targeted return on investment.
8%
secret.
IRR.
Yeah.
Yeah, roughly about 8%.
That's okay.
Yeah, that's right. It's actually the government's mandate. So.
Yeah.
Okay, next we have Izwan Medkat. Mute. You're muting.
Okay. Assalamualaikum, Tan Sri, Datuk Umar, and everyone. So I'm co-founder of MedCard. MedCard is a third-party administrator. We are registered with MOH. Basically, we have a big plan for health tech lah. We want to change the healthcare landscape if possible, and right now MedCard is we are already in payer segment. We help companies by making payment more efficient in terms of spending medical for the staff, and we do have plans to go consumer, specifically into Takaful. But now Takaful requires us to inject 100 million capital to be one of the operators. So maybe we look into other options like crowdfunding as an alternative. So yeah, that's the plan, future. That's for Mecca lah, because we have plans to go as a provider and also as a e-commerce players in health tech.
Thanks, Izwan. Next, Sheikh Izaidin.
Hi, Assalamualaikum, Tan Sri and Datuk Omar. Thank you for a nice session. So my name is Sheikh Zaidin from Agent DU. So basically we help product founders to digitally manage their sales agents and also stockists, and for both founders and also agents to increase their business performance using data analytics. So basically we just started like last year. It just like a little bit more than 1 year, 1 year and a month. And right now, we are already in our seed round. Recently, we got an investment from 500 startup, Silicon Valley investor. And also at the moment, we have like more than 30,000 sales agents in our platform. So to be frank, during the start of our startup life, so basically our intention is more towards helping the founders, but now we realize that our platform need to help all those agents, because all these sales agents actually they fall under informal economies, and right now during recession, during this COVID-19, more and more people losing jobs, and more people, especially women B40, they want to be sales agents to increase their income. Okay, right. Thank you.
Thanks, Izaidin.
Rizal, a quick question.
Yeah.
Is that indeed do supply chain management as well?
Sorry, say again.
Does Engine to use supply chain as well, or just agency and?
No, basically we are more towards the management of those agents, but
Okay.
we are looking forward to add more sub system into the ecosystem. So I can say that mungkin we will look into this in the future.
Next we have Hilmi.
Assalamualaikum, Tan Sri, Datuk. Yeah, my name is Helmi from IX Telecom. Actually, we are the virtual network operator. We are a telecommunication company that running on virtual network operator model, where we do not own physical last mile. We do not own infrastructure, but we leverage on other people's infrastructure. Currently, we are serving global service providers and other local telco. To penetrate their off-net market for those places that do not have coverage. So we'll become the aggregator for them and to connect them to other operators around the world. So currently we are actually covering our service coverage covering the entire world. So we are working with almost everyone in the industry. So we have been thinking to go for IPO, but we are still unsure, right, whether it's a good move or not, because first, as what I think Nazrul mentioned just now, whether we're not sure whether Malaysia is a good place for us to go for the IPO. And another thing, how as a founder we can exit when we go for IPO, because people always advise me that don't go for IPO if you want to exit, because you will get stuck and you won't exit forever. So we're still not sure.
Thanks, Hilmi.
At the end of the day, I'm afraid, Hilmi, you need someone to take your job. So you'll be looking for a trade sale, not an IPO, not capital raising.
Yeah.
If you exit, itu yang susah.
All right. So thanks, Datuk.
So just curious, so what's the size of your business, tell me?
Yeah.
What's the size of your business revenue?
Revenue size currently is about 50 million ringgit of revenue. Yeah. And we have been profitable actually since day one.
Oh, okay.
That's good.
We are already 12 years in business.
Well done.
So we have last two. We have Mas. Are you okay to go, Mas?
Unmute, please.
I think you're on mute, Maz.
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm
Okay.
very mute.
No, it's okay.
Again?
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
All right. Okay. My name is Mas. I'm the co-founder of Reka. Hi, Dato and Tan Sri. Thank you very much for mentoring us for today. What Reka is actually a platform for to preserve knowledge sharing, where a lot of the knowledge that we have within a community organization is always lost when a person leaves the community and whatnot. We have experts. What we do is we can centralize all that in a platform called Reka, where then we can also we enable the community to connect with experts of the knowledge. So what we are doing right now is we are serving MOE where they use Reka, but we white label to Ruang Ilmu for the teachers to share their learning resources, teaching resources with other teachers. Right, so we have about 14,000 teachers on board, and we are onboarding smaller SMEs who does not have some kind of like their own intranet, like SharePoints, like what big enterprises have, or an IT division. So Reka is simple to use tool for businesses to have their own intranet to manage their resources, templates, documents, and whatnot. So yeah, that's what we do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mas.
Thank you.
Last but not least, we have Reza from Slurp.
Okay, Assalamualaikum Tan Sri and Datuk. Terima kasih Nick sebab organize. So next time saya kat Sabah makan nasi Arab nampak Tan Sri, saya akan cuba tegur. Dan apa yang saya buat dekat Slurp ialah kita buat sistem financial system. And just to share saya punya journey, business kami VC funded back in 2017. Tapi 2019 kita redeem balik because tak sekepala, we don't have the same wavelength with the investor. So this day the business is privately owned, privately driven, and Alhamdulillah I have a bit more peace running my business that way lah. But the exposure to be able to list the company is something that mungkin saya akan explore bila hati dah terbuka lah balik, insyaAllah.
Thanks, Reza. Okay, who else that have not heard? Do we have Amir here? Amir Haris?
Yes.
Oh, Amir, okay.
Okay. Okay, Tan Sri, Datuk. So my name is Amir Haris. So I'm doing a cyber security product. So we call it one of the product we call it DNS Walk lah. So meaning that DNS Walk sekarang ni kita baru je dapat untuk kita protect the government of Malaysia. So basically if you dalam network government sekarang OneGovNet, protection kita provide protection untuk OneGovNet lah. So sekarang ni kita dekat Indonesia dengan Singapore. So dekat Indonesia kita sebelum COVID ni kita sempat produk ini sempat digunakan oleh Bank Mandiri lah untuk dia punya protection, network protection. Dekat Malaysia, we have few client, for example, Malaysia Airport, Bank Sempadan Nasional, dan beberapa universiti lain. So our company basically is from US dengan Europe. So basically kalau untuk protection, biasanya kalau kita tengok dalam network, mereka produk. So saya bangga dengan produk ini sebab kita involve local developers. And then produk kita based pada cloud dengan hardware. So it hardware based and cloud. So it's not just a software, but we also doing any low level language for the hardware by using the yang local talent yang ada dekat Malaysia sekarang. Okay.
Thanks, Amir. Okay, I think hopefully I cover all of you. So it's already 12:07. We already exceed 7 minutes. Thank you again to Tan Sri and Datuk and all of you for making this session happen. Alhamdulillah. Yes, as usual, before we end, let's take a group photo. Maybe can.
Sorry, if I may, Rizal.
Yep, sure.
Before we end, if I may say a few words. So I think, thank you everyone for participating in this session. So it's been useful for us too. I always say that we always learn new things, no matter how senior or how old we are in life, if you like. Now, I thought you found the session useful from both Datuk Omar and I. But if I may just summarize my earlier presentation, to me, at the end of the day, for all of us, whether you're entrepreneurs or corporate leader, if you want to be successful and sustainable, you must be clear about your purpose in life. And to me, and if you do good, inshallah, you gain barakah. Secondly, it's always important for all of us to focus on the fundamentals and focus on substance rather than form. Sometimes we get carried away with branding and so on, a lot more form, but we forget about the substance because I always say that substance without form will not get you anywhere. But if you complement fundamental improvements and good substance with a good form, then you will certainly go a long way. The third is the need to work hard and work smart, the need to go for excellence. And as you grow, you need to make sure that you put into place good corporate governance, because this is important, especially when you have investors putting money into your organization. The fourth is about the need to really focus on your task at hand, to do well. And I think, inshallah, your reputation will precede you. Sometimes we think about too many things, want to do too many things at once. That's when you start. Again, just pick a few that you want to focus on. Number five is to never stop learning and use technology to your advantage. I think we are speaking to the converted already. You guys use a lot of technology. I don't need to, I suppose, remind you on that. Number six, about the need to keep innovating and to think outside the box, bullshit, coming up with solutions. Sometimes it's as simple as putting down what your options are in order to address the problem that you face. Number seven is about the need to embrace the three key attributes of being a good and effective leader. I'm sure you've read many management books about the various qualities, but me, at the end of the day, the top three would be the need to have unquestionable integrity, they need to have the competence, the skills and knowledge to do the job well. And the third is about having humility. Humility is about treating people with mutual respect. It's about staying grounded to your roots. And it's about knowing that we all live in this world for a greater purpose in life rather than for our self-interest. And humility is also about knowing that we do not know everything and that we need teamwork in order to succeed. And the last one here is about the need to be grateful. Sometimes we forget to be grateful to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala and be thankful to the people who have helped us along the way, whether it's actually your co-workers, your colleagues, your parents, certainly. And I think, inshallah, if we remain grateful to people, then people will, you'll get more and more barakah, inshallah. And the last one, if I may, is the need to do our respective part and be constructive, if you like. Now, I had the benefit of running multinational organizations, whether it's at Telkom Malaysia, UAM Group, or Maybank Group in many countries. My view is that sometimes we Malaysians, we are too hard on ourselves. We tend to look at the glass as being green on the other side, the glass as being half empty as opposed to be half full. We tend to look at things that divide us as opposed to things that unite us. To me, At the end of the day, yes, Malaysia is not perfect. There are many areas where we can improve. But from my perspective, there are many things that we are better than other countries, for sure. So what is needed is that notwithstanding whatever political issues that we may experience today, if all of us were to play our respective part within our circle of influence, and if we can work hard, work smart, and be constructive in our approach, and if we can truly embrace the spirit and intention of Rukun Negara, not just the 5 principles on the left side here, but also the objectives of Rukun Negara, which is very consistent with the wawasan kemakmuran bersama, the shared prosperity vision. And I think inshallah, this country of ours will continue to progress. I would always like to take a leaf from Thailand. They suffer from military coups from time to time, and until today, they have military coup. They have that constant battle between the red shirts and the yellow shirts. But their people remain focused, going about their daily life, notwithstanding whatever political situation. So I think likewise we can do the same thing here. So I hope all of you will do that and wish you the best in driving your respective businesses. And when you want to grow, don't forget Malaysia, and don't forget our capital market here in Malaysia. So as I said, valuation is actually one thing, but my view is actually you have to look at the longer term. And if you have a viable business, and inshallah, you'll get the necessary support from investors here in Malaysia, in Malaysia in particular. So that
Thanks, Tan Sri. All right, I think that should conclude our mentoring sessions. Yeah, let's take a group photo then. Let me see who else are not here. I think because we need to take turns because using this platform is only allow 13 faces in one time. Because we have more than that. We have like almost 18 people right now. All right. Okay. So we're going to have 2 sessions. Okay. First session. All right. Let's smile, everyone. 1, 2. Okay. Let's have a second session. Let me call. Who else is not here? Moment, yeah. Let me have a look here. Okay. We don't have Izzat, Mas. Maybe you can speak up. Then later, once you speak up, then your face appear here. Okay, alright. Okay, where is Izzat? Izzat from Tracker Hero. Mana? Where are you, Izzat?
Yeah, I don't have the camera lah. Tapi boleh okay lah.
Okay, you don't have a camera here. Okay, alright. Let's have Izzat.
Ada tak?
Yeah.
Izzat, where is Izzat?
Yeah.
Mana?
Here.
Where are you?
Ada.
Okay. Izzat, I cannot see you lah, Izzat.
I'm here. Can you guys?
Come on, Rizal, penat senyum.
Senyum is a workout. Okay, let's smile more and then it's a workout.
Hey guys, can you see me, Rizal?
Okay, yes, Izzat. Okay, cool.
Can I?
Yeah. Okay, let's take a second session. 1, 2. Okay, nice.
Okay, thank you everyone again. So kalau jumpa saya dekat mana-mana, jumpa Datuk Umar kat mana, tegur lah. So,
Thank you, Datuk.
Kita share tiga Datuk.
session start with Rizal, tegur saya masa tengah jogging dekat Sabarjaya.
Yeah, selalu actually. No
Okay,
problem.
thank you.
Alright. Thank you so much everyone. InsyaAllah jumpa lagi. Okay, bye. Assalamualaikum.
Thank you. Terima kasih. Shall see you on the 6th floor shortly, country.
Alhamdulillah, terima kasih. Sedap.